if we want farmers from lower incomes and so on, and so many of them are, we're going to have to find a way to pay to bring them here. I know
Yeah.
that companies like Intelligentsia, once they got to a certain size, were bringing, and I think maybe there are some others, but that's the one that really comes to mind. They were bringing in farmers from around the world once a
Hmm.
year.
Right. Well, the SCA made $21 million in surplus last year, so I'm sure that we could find some way to bring some producers.
That, to me, that would be, it's that kind of thing.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop. It's time to become a coffee consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details.
Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, lThe Safar, and this is sadly the last episode of our 5-part series with the esteemed George Howell from George Howell Coffee. And we are talking about the coffee industry according to George Howell. Now, folks, before we dive into this episode, I just want to remind you that if you would like to support the podcast, we are growing exponentially at the moment. And I just want to say how grateful I am to all the people who have reached out and said thank you for everything that we're doing for the industry. It really does mean a lot to me to receive these emails and these messages. The very best thing that you can do right now is share the content with people that you are colleagues with or coffee enthusiasts. Coffee enthusiasts are really enjoying learning about the coffee industry through this podcast. So share the podcast with people that you know. And if you'd like to make sure that this podcast continues to remain sponsor free, you can join us on our Patreon page, or you can buy one of the on-demand learning workshops that we've got, or you can become a paid member on our YouTube channel. So all of those have little perks that you get with them. So thanks in advance for all your support. Now I get to have the conversation that I've been most excited about having with you, George, about this whole series, which is what are the greatest challenges that we're going to face as an industry for cafes and roasteries over the next couple of years?
Mm. Yeah. Price.
Price.
Cost. Yeah. From real estate, right?
Right.
Uh, Critical places that once upon a time were cultural centers. In my case, with Greater Boston, Harvard Square,
Right.
dead center of Cambridge, and with the way prices have gone for real estate, which now can be over $200 to $300 a square foot.
Yeah. Crazy.
Go try to put in a cafe there, unless you're a big chain that is doing it to be seen, not
Right.
to not to subsist, let alone make a profit. Right? And these 20 years ago, when Coffee Connection started, for instance, were real hubs of university students mixed with all kinds of people coming from far away, really. I mean,
Yeah.
we had customers coming from Rhode Island and other places, all into Harvard Square, not just for us, because there were other shops there and stuff.
Mm.
Now they're big chains, all of them, right? Lots of well, there were ATM machines. They're disappearing now.
Yeah.
Got the phone companies and on in big chains, right? And it becomes more anonymous and more like everywhere else. So that's an issue. In other words, the most dynamic spots where transportation and things are happening are often so expensive. Newbury Street, for instance, in Boston is another one. Right? Place to be, right? And Blue Bottle's got a spot there and so on. But the cost to be there is enormous. And so you need volume that is huge, absolutely huge.
Volume or deep pockets, right?
Uh, that's a problem, right? I mean, because the number of deep pockets, I mean, there's certainly lots of deep pockets there, but the number of no deep pockets is increasing, isn't it?
Very much so. This is where I want to ask you about the facade in our industry that exists of people worshipping these brands without having the awareness that there is a lot of private equity behind that or venture capital money behind that. And I'm not sure that the average person in our industry understands how prolific that is.
Well, yeah, that's the case in everything. And you can start just talking about politics these days.
Right.
That is the issue. We are, I'm not very religious, but I can't help but think of the Tower of Babel, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's a really very powerful image of what we're going through.
Absolutely. And this is, I'm not sure that people quite understand the significance of this venture capital money coming into, and you draw the correlation with politics about, super PAC money, et cetera, right? But in this industry, people tend to worship, and we are a strange creature, those of us that are in coffee. There seems to be fad-driven things, and people like to belong to certain cults. When people aren't quite aware that those kinds of businesses are very different to the kind of business that really can't afford to coexist with those businesses, right? For a new small business, even with a little bit of cash, to try and compete with those kinds of businesses, there is no competing. Not today anymore.
Yeah, that it is. It is difficult. It's also being rendered far more complex now because so many city centers are gutted completely.
Of any kind of culture or
even human beings walking down the streets. So you have that, bombed out places like that.
Mm-hmm.
You also have, it's not just large corporations, but anybody who's got a voice can start doing their own podcast or Instagram messages and all the rest of it. So you really have almost as many different messages as you have human beings. I mean, it's insane how many. This thing that's growing.
Yeah.
Information centers from small to large to everything else. That is full of sometimes creative ideas, a lot of misinformation, and really requires people using a lot of judgment.
Speaking of judgment, well, that leads us to something that I think is going to be perhaps rather controversial that I would like to talk to you about.
Uh-oh.
So, as we mentioned, we are recording this on the Friday of World of Coffee Copenhagen.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last few days, I have had a lot of producers contact me and say, do these people realize, all these people that are flocking to these expos and in Copenhagen and Dubai and Chicago and et cetera, we are not carving out a platform or a stage for producers to be front and center. And producers are asking me, did these people realize that there is no industry without coffee? And my concern is, and no disrespect to the SCA, but I have a lot of questions about this coffee value assessment form and why we are hammering home this coffee value assessment form and what value at the time of crisis that the coffee value assessment form is going to play for producers in the next couple of years, and how it's going to help producers who need to figure out how to survive. Because from what I can see, this is a data grab by the SCA that's going to turn into the SCA being to sell a lot of data to big corporations. And again, no disrespect to the SCA. The SCA and Map It Forward have a healthy relationship of challenging each other. And I'm very grateful that we have that relationship because we always challenge the SCA respectfully. But I'm dumbfounded, George, and I don't understand it because we're in crisis and I can't figure out why this is happening.
I don't have an, I mean, I myself am only familiarizing myself with the form itself and what its meaning is and how you use it and all the rest of it.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. I just can't really say much yet about it. And I don't know the internal workings of how that works with companies, larger companies, and so on either. How
Right.
that gets read out, right? I had my concerns about it in the sense that it seems much more market driven than it does quality driven. But first impression, and I don't really,
Right.
we haven't used it. We haven't. I did hear one address by Eduardo Ambrosio, who is one of the Cup of Excellence leaders, cuppers, and so on. That was really intelligently done, but it's and explaining it, and just in terms of how you use it for the cupping itself and testing. But I don't know enough about it yet.
Right.
I do feel that you're right that well, I was in Chicago, and I do enjoy the fact that I run into some farmers, but you're right, I don't run into. There's not really a forum, so I ran into farmers from Panama. That's easy to do. They've got the funds to be there.
Right.
And you come into the other place like Colombia or whatever, and it's a crowd, but you know, it's very hard to connect that way, right? But I am connecting to a lot of other players. I can run into a Nolan, for instance,
Right.
another beat, and talk to them about my concerns,
Yep.
right? Not celebrate, but actually concerns and really. So it is a place to challenge your own thoughts, learn a little bit, so on.
But the
But
producers don't really have a voice there. And that's
there
my
has to be a
concern.
forum, right? There has to be a forum. There has to be a way for farmers to get heard and to relate.
Yeah.
How that's done is the question, right? And I haven't. It's concerned me. I mean, when the SDA was here in Boston, we tried to do something on Kenya. Uh, there was a Cup of Excellence meeting where we had a couple of farmers talk as well. So it was in between the farmers and roasters, but we need to more of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. And if we want farmers from lower incomes and so on, and so many of them are, we're going to have to find a way to pay to bring them here. I know that companies like Intelligentsia, once they got to a certain size, were bringing, and I think maybe there are some others, but that's the one that really comes to mind. They were bringing in farmers from around the world once a year.
Right. Well, the SCA made $21 million in surplus last year, so I'm sure that we could find some way to bring some producers.
That, to me, that would be, it's that kind of thing to mind. That would be really valuable. Right.
And I'm not questioning the SCA's look. A lot of people are point
of view, right?
Right.
They are not focusing on that. Really, it really needs to be part of it, right? I lost interest in the symposiums because it really wasn't about that anymore, it seemed to me. I just wasn't getting anything out of it.
producers are not being heard. They get heard on this platform. This is a really great platform for producers to come on and talk about the stuff that needs to be talked about. But this is not enough. This is nowhere near enough. For someone like Heliana, why isn't Heliana getting a platform at Rico?
That would be fantastic. Right?
That's what we need to be doing.
That.
So you would go to that?
Sure.
And there's
you provided a lot of that. That's really important.
But the thing was, George, after Heliana said what she said on this podcast, I got contacted from agronomists in Brazil and across Latin America telling me, hey, this is not just happening in Ethiopia. The eucalyptus thing and the chat thing is happening in all of our countries. It's almost like there's an agenda happening somewhere where they're trying to get, they've realized that coffee is in crisis and they've taken an opportunity to pounce on that desperation to create eucalyptus and other cash crops for producers that are struggling. Now, my big challenge with that is if that ends up taking over, that land can't be used for another 15 to 20 years. That's how long it's going to take for us to regenerate that land after the eucalyptus has been done with it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the eucalyptus develop further than what I've noticed for the past decades. I mean, eucalyptus is for a long time, and I've always had a problem with it. Except for super wet areas that shouldn't be around, plain and simple. There are, as I was mentioning on a previous talk with you, there's certainly large farmers and small that are beginning to really look into regenerative agriculture and so on. I mean, there are developments. So really large farm in Brazil, in the Cerrado is definitely experimenting for many years, not only on varieties, but also on everything from nurseries and the color of the coverings to protect them from the sun. Different colors that actually affect the plants growing. I saw that also in Guatemala, with going from black to white shading and on.
That's cool.
These things that are happening below ground that are not being, that are not coming to our attention yet, except for those of us who are lucky enough to run into them. That may have roles to play. So this is where the hope is.
Right.
But we are in a world that is increasingly subject to money, large amounts of money.
And that's what I'm concerned about with regards to the SCA.
Totally get it. Right. Not just the SCA. All our lives.
Yes.
Plain and simple. It's just everywhere. Right. So all we can do in specialty, because we're a lot smaller for the most part, is to play our roles as pollinators.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are. Those of us who really believe in something other than making just money.
What is the last, as we wrap up this series, what's the words of encouragement that you have for people who perhaps are looking at one day becoming business owners in specialty? What words do you have for them or for people who are currently in business and are trying to figure out how to continue on this very difficult time that we're experiencing? What words do you have for them?
First, as I was mentioning earlier in a previous one, is where you locate and not being dependent on any one single piece of society. Not just business, but tourism, high-tech people, university students, all of that, or Oops. Yeah, I'm running out of battery here.
We're almost done. We need 2 minutes and then we're done.
So, but to choose something that's got 4 or 5 different types of concentrations, not
Okay.
just one. So if one drops out or prices,
Diversify your revenue streams.
multiple legs to the table, not
Amazing.
just one or two. That's really, really critical. And then communication.
Okay, folks, George just we just lost George. So we will wrap up this series there. Thank you, George, for an incredible series. We will include links to the show notes below. So join us. Join us for the next series. We have a cracker coming for you. Thank you again, George Howell. Check George Howell Coffee out in the show notes. George would have been signing off Peace, Love and Peanut Butter, but I will do that on his behalf. Thanks for joining us, folks. Check out our Patreon, check out our mailing list, check out everything in the description. Peace, Love and Peanut Butter. Have an amazing rest of your day.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.